Fear God and Dreadnought. Several meanings to that one. But there again, it was Jackie Fisher's motto, so what do you expect? If you're going to look for something, well, simple, don't look at Jackie Fisher. So, why is this the first video of my key ship series of this year? Two reasons. One, I thought I could do it fairly quickly. Two, and there's only so much time to record before I go away. Especially in a week which has involved me being the soul of the children at home, using that term loosely, after my mum has had an operation. Because my sister, who went with her to the appointment, managed to forget that she was away to the Lake District the week after she'd have the op. I love you, sister, if you're watching this, but I don't believe you forgot it. At all. Anyway, that has meant, combined with fun work things, I'm very glad that I did make HMS Dreadnought the first ship in the key ship series, because it's going to be easiest to really point to and go, key ship! There is no one who's really going to try and make the argument that she wasn't a key ship, because she literally is used as a dividing line of there are pre-dreadnoughts and there are dreadnoughts, or as I like to call them, there are Royal Sovereign star battleships and there are dreadnought star battleships. All are sexy, sexy battleships. Okay? And the fact that she creates, her design does create something called a Dreadnought Armoured Cruiser, which becomes a battle cruiser, which becomes a battle cruiser, and eventually a fast battleship. It's pretty darn cool and allows her to stand apart. But why is she a key ship? What about her makes her a key ship? Well, there's honestly a couple of things, and honestly these are not going to be long videos. Please note, the key ship series is not going to be 5-minute guides, but they're not going to be long videos. For starters, they're going to have shameless book plugs. What made it so different? Well, there are two reasons it's so different. One, there's the fact that this broadside was theoretically the same heavy 12-inch firepower as a pair of pre-dreadnoughts. Most of the vessels pre her would have 4 guns, 4 12-inch guns, or the Sovereigns or forward, or equivalent, sometimes less than not even 12-inch guns. They would have this capability, but it wasn't really meant for anything. They had those big guns, but they only had 4 of them. And really they're more for long-range harassment or close-range smashing. They're not really meant to provide a salvo fire system for accurate long-range engagement. And that is the difference, because once you get above 4 guns, and you start looking at 8, well, you have the ability to do that. Or, as it was so important to Jackie Fisher in this thing, having 6 guns firing forward. This is why I often say, if the Royal Navy, if Jackie Fisher realised you could do super firing, and there is actual evidence and discussion around the time, so if he had realised that he could have mounted a turret above in B position, so he could have had an A and a B, and could have had a X and a Y, he'd probably kept this lovely turret. He'd have probably kept a 5th one. But he would more than likely have ended up with triple turrets. And that ends up going down a really interesting avenue, because if he goes down triple turrets, he's going to build a new turret anyway. In which case, the odds are he's going to go to, being Jackie Fisher, he's going to go to Ellswick Ordnance Company. And he's going to get the 14-inch gun, in which case you could have ended up with HMS Dreadnought, the first ever Dreadnought battleship. And still could have been built before and in the water before anyone else managed to launch them, so still would have given them the name, or anything equivalent to it, because she'd have launched with a broadside of 15 14-inch guns. Let's be honest, if she's launched in 1906, it doesn't matter at that point, because who else is going to be able to match it? At worst, you're dealing with a Warrior Gloire moment, where Gloire was lovely and in the water, but not that great. And Warrior was, hello, I'm here. Don't I look dashing? Anyone remember anyone else in the world other than me? No, you don't want to. And I can make it even better, because look, here's my sister, Black Prince. Do you anyone remember anyone other than us dashing beauties? No. Well, it would have been the same with Dreadnought, under that circumstances, but he didn't. So how did he get his 6 guns firing forward? Well, he mounts 2 wing turrets. Which comes straight out of the playbook of the pre-Dreadnought. If we look at the Nelson class, you will see wing turrets, Lord Nelson class. So they're not unusual, but without them, you could have also had a longer, thinner HMS Dreadnought, which would have probably been a faster HMS Dreadnought, let's be honest, if it's longer and thinner. In which case, they might not have been a 21-knot ship. That's setting the speed limit. It could have been 22 or even 23 knots. Everything becomes very interesting. But the fact is, even without those what-ifs, those alternative histories, if we look at the decisions that are made about her and how she comes in, she is something impressive. She's 21 knots of long-range firepower. Now, why does that matter? Well, not only is she going faster than you can go, she can engage you at a range with a volley of fire that you cannot match. Not with a single ship. Probably only going to need 2 or 3 pre-dreadnoughts to really match in, unless you're managing to fight in the kind of scenario where you can't maneuver as a dreadnought, and that pre-Dreadnought crew is really practiced and really knows their area. In which case, as the Russians demonstrated in the Baltic several times in World War I, they can score some disturbing hits on you. It's almost hilariously fun. Now, I've put it as the parents, with the S separated, for a reason, because I wasn't sure what we would consider some of their relationships. So I've added in a space before the S. And I'm not sure if I'll repeat this slide when I'm talking about other ships, but yeah, I might do. There is the Lord Nelson class, who donated the turret design and the 12-inch guns. If it hadn't been for HMS Dreadnought, there might have been another 2, maybe even another 3 Lord Nelsons actually built. It's sad. But ultimately, it was for the good of the Navy that they gave up their souls, or rather their guns. Then we have the gentleman up there with a really, really fancy moustache. And you notice that Most of these gentlemen, other than Jackie Fisher, are sporting very impressive facial hair of one type or another. You know, the close-cropped beard of Pakenham, who watched Toshima, and his report back is so critical to Fisher making the case for the Dreadnought. Kunaberti, who had written the paper and imagined ideal battleship. It's interesting to notice that his ideal battleship is actually probably closer in gun layout to the Lord Nelson class than it is to the Dreadnought. Just pointing this out, if you look at it in gun layout, it's closer to the Lord Nelson class than it is to Dreadnought. But was the person who wrote the first paper, which wrote down what everyone else was already thinking of having an all big gun ship. Percy Scott, over here, who was one of those voices really pushing forward long range fire that actually makes it possible to coordinate these big guns at long range. It's an important point. If you don't think you're going to have the ability to actually utilise the range, there's no point having them. No matter what size bang they give you, there just isn't any point having them. And we have Charles Algernon Parsons. Now, think about it. Think about the fact that we always associate Dreadnought with the big guns. But just as important to the description and differential of Dreadnought as its gun, it's all a big gun armament, which depends on your perspective, is without doubt the adoption of turbines. The speed, the power they bring, the capabilities they bring in terms of operating at speed for long amounts of time, all these are factors in what makes a Dreadnought, which is why Kunaberti, who loved talking about big gun ships and all big gun salvo, and why Scott, and to an extent why others are not mentioned here, is because, frankly, the information that comes from Pakenham provides Fisher with the justification for the speed investment in turbines, as well as all the big guns. And the turbines are just an important part of the differential from the Lord Nelson class as the all big guns, because of the operating characteristics they endow. So let's think about that. Believe it or not, I have WD-40 in my chair, but I think I'm going to use the WD-40 some more. It is an extra character in the room. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Now, a displacement of 18,410 tons. 18,410 tons. A length of 527 feet. That's 160.6 meters. Beam, 25 meters, or 82 foot 1 inch. And the raft, 29 foot 7.5 inches, or 9 meters in deep load. 18 Babcock and Wilcox boilers supplied 2 Parsons steam turbine sets to drive 4 shafts of 23,000 shaft horsepower, for a total speed of 21 knots, or a range of 6,620 nautical miles at 10 knots. Complement 700 in 1907, 810 in 1916. That's a crowded vessel. 10 12-inch guns in 5 twin turrets. Well, if you go back to this lovely design here, which, by the way, I think it got cut off by the joyous thing that is Microsoft PowerPoint, but this was drawn by Andrew Arthur in 2001, and it's available on Wikipedia. It's a very good drawing of her, far better than my artistic talents can make. 27 single 12-pounder guns. Oh, so she's not an all-big gun ship. No, she has better guns to take on destroyers. Duh. Sensible too. And 5 18-inch torpedo tubes. Well, that's something to carry. That is something to carry. Her armour, well, it moved between 4 inches and 11 inches, or rather 102 and 279 millimeters. Its deck was 0.75 inch to 3 inch thick, depending on the area. It had barbettes, which were between 4 and 11 inches thick, again depending on the area. Turrets, which were between 3 and 12 inches thick. Guess what? Depending on the area. And a conning tower, which was 11 inches thick in uniformity all round. And bulkheads, which were 8 inches thick. It was a very, very solid vessel, using crop cemented armour. In fact, a lot of its armour was built according to crop lines. It is a ship which is designed to be as much a presence in people's minds as it is a presence in reality. And that's one of the reasons why it has the stats it does. That's a useful vessel. In fact, it also carried 3 100 kilowatt Siemens generators, DC Siemens generators, which were powered by 2 Brotherhood steam and 2 Mills diesel engines, which was later changed to 3 steam and 1 diesel. Shouldn't detract from it. HMS Dreadnought is this really useful point. It's a point in history, but it's also a point in ship design. As I've said in other videos, and it's going to come out in other videos as well, because it's coming, naval history is not neatly delineated. So when we describe an age as the Dreadnought age, or we describe an age as this or that, we are honestly using a rough rule of thumb guide. It's not necessarily the most sensible or accurate rough rule of thumb, but it is the one we have. When we talk about the Dreadnought era, what we're talking about is this. We're talking about a turbine-powered battleship which is heavily armoured and packs a punch which can hit you at long range. That's basically what we're looking for. And that's the criteria we use. When people come to me and go, well, this ship was actually not, this ship wasn't, she's not the first Dreadnought because, you know, these vessels were being built before her. Yeah, but they're not turbine powered. Yeah, but they're not turbine powered. Because I'm not shifting the goalposts. The thing was, building a ship with all big guns, anyone could have done that. And I think if the British had done it, it wouldn't be remembered as much as Dreadnought is to this day. But the thing is, building something which has big guns, turbine power, and directed layout, and directed fire, yeah. That's a capability. Now, would I like it to have been triple 14-inch guns in 5 turrets and her to be really able to whack a doodle? Well, yes, I would have. But that's because I like big guns and I cannot lie. I also think it would have been better from a deterrence perspective, which is why Jackie Fisher was building her. Because Jackie Fisher was basically building her as a way to call reset on the various naval races going on, in the hope that cooler heads would prevail and everyone would drop out of them, and then the British could just puddle along building what they liked. Well, it didn't happen. It just didn't. Instead, people waited roughly a year and started ordering their own dreadnoughts based off the HMS Dreadnought. And suddenly, she goes from a very good battleship for Britain to being a role model for the rest of the world. And Jackie Fisher gets really, really upset, because if he'd gone for the 14-inch guns, then the Germans would never have been able to turn around and go, you know what, our 11-inch guns are almost are as good as your 12-inch. Because, You can sort of push that argument in 11v12 inch, but 14-inch Ellswick's Ordnance Company guns, and 15 of them, and if someone's going, well, you know, we've managed to build something and it's got 6 turrets, so it can do a broadside of 4 turrets, and it's got 6 twin 11-inch guns in each broadside, theoretically, therefore, you go, so we can fire 15 14-inch shells at you at ranges greater than you can fire 8 11-inch shells at me. Why? 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 And ultimately, that is the other point of a Dreadnought battleship. It's about weight of fire. In many ways, it's the beginning of where we found ourselves today, where we're sort of organising mass salvos from multiple ships. If you think about it, prior to Dreadnought and since the Battle of Trafalgar, the number of guns on ships has been going down, especially after Warriors have come in. They've been getting more and more powerful, but they've been going down. But rate of fire and range of fire has not been going up equivalently. Suddenly Dreadnought comes in, and she solves the problem by having a lot of these really big guns, so she can do the range of fire and the rate of fire at that range. And that's where she changes the world, because suddenly everyone's having to catch up with them. And by catch up, I mean run crying afterwards. Thank you for watching. As I said, this is going to be roughly 20 minutes videos, this series. And I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found the sort of discussion of the Dreadnought as a key ship interesting. And take care. If you're wondering where I am when this video is going out, I will probably be... Hang on, it'll be going out at 7 o'clock in the evening. Hopefully I'm heading for Crazy Gulf in the middle of central London. If not, if I'm not heading to Swingers, I will be probably in, I think this time I'm staying in the Travelodge, and tapping away, writing up the books. So either way, I'll be having a lovely time. But I will say now, the video on Sunday night and the video on next Thursday night will be premieres, so that you can always chat away with the people you normally chat with at those times of night. Okay, while it's live. But they're not going to be long. They're going to still be 20-minute videos. What else was I going to say? Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I'd love to see any suggestions for what key ships and why their key ships should be included. Because I've written Series 2 and I've written Series 1, but I've got Series 3 and Series 4 planned for various other trips during this year, and I haven't yet put ships into them, so I'd love to hear what vessels you think will be key ships. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.